Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Random Chore Radio, episode 452, coming to you on Tuesday, October 11th. We're going to look back at USC's 30-14 win over the Washington State Cougars, take your questions, and so much more. As always, you can follow us on Twitter and social media. We're on Twitter and Facebook. You can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. Our email address is reignoftroy@fansided.com. I'm your host, Michael Castillo, joining along with my co-host, Alicia Artola.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. We are back for a special Tuesday night edition of the podcast. We're a day late, but hey, you get to see us on back-to-back days.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be your lead-up show, your pregame show to the Dodgers playoff game tonight. So hopefully...
who the hell cares? It's opening night, baby.
Okay, lead into opening night for the Kings.
Kings Knights at the Stape.
There you go.
You love to see it. No one's watching baseball tonight. It's hockey night in LA. Come on.
My bad.
Get that out of here. I'm super pumped that we get to finally see the old hockey on the ice after the Kings were eliminated from the playoffs while we were on our honeymoon.
That's right. That's right, because we struggled to find that game.
We couldn't do it
anywhere on TV
had to listen on the ship Wi-Fi, which was hit and miss.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Yeah. But a lot of stuff going on in LA tonight. We're back here on Tuesday. We'll be back again tomorrow on Wednesday, October 12th, here live on YouTube to look forward to the biggie, the biggin, the one everyone circled before the season. USC at Utah, the Trojans going on the road to Rice Eccles, 5 p.m. Pacific time on Big Fox. This Saturday, we'll preview that game on Wednesday. And if you are joining us on Apple Podcasts, you can probably see that in your feed later on Wednesday night or potentially early Thursday morning, depending on the time that it ultimately indexes and all that stuff. But speaking of Apple Podcasts, we got a bunch of new reviews I wanted to get to here. We got 5 stars from probably the best username I've ever seen on Apple Podcasts.
I did a double take, Michael. I did a double take.
Lemonade Dog Sauce.
I
don't know how you get there, but I love it.
I need to know the origin.
What do you think dog sauce is? Is it like is it sweet like lemonade? Is it maybe tart?
Well, see, but this is what, like, is dog sauce like boo-boo sauce? Like, is it a bad thing? Is dog sauce good? Like, it's like the sauce you put on like a hot dog.
Maybe like, saucy is seen as good, and you got that dog in you that's seen as good. So maybe it's like he's got dog sauce.
Yeah. Is it a pro lemonade term or an anti-lemonade term? I need to know.
Speaking of, very anti at the Ronald Tudor Campus Center. Well, I'm an anti-lemonade person.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, like what? Like I don't need to get some fancy $8 lemonade.
I mean,
when I'm a student.
I too am anti $8 lemonade, but like it's good lemonade, so sometimes it's worth it.
Bring back Carl's Jr. Long live Carl's Jr. at the student union. Anyways, Lemonade Dog Sauce says they spend 5 minutes talking about lasagna, but to be fair, they did warn the audience that the dying minutes of each podcast would be dedicated to frivolity.
And apparently the first 5 minutes of this episode.
This too, yeah.
Sorry, dude.
Yeah. Mike and Alicia occupy that sweet spot in sports coverage, the area that resides between charming fandom, professional analytics, and listener engagement. This podcast is fun. They understand exactly who they are and what they offer. My recommendation is to listen to their married to each other faces and be thankful that our football team has such competent voices following along. Thomas.
Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate the review. That's very heartwarming, and thank you for giving us the content of trying to figure out your username.
Yeah, we appreciate the review as always, and I like to think that we know what we are. I would hope. Beardman2415 says, always honest, 5 stars. Been listening to Rot for a couple of years now. I've loved every minute. I appreciate both of your passion for USC football and for always giving us SC fans true, honest takes. Aside from Michael's awful food takes, this podcast has it all. As I navigate through the rigors of medical school, I really look forward to my commute so I can get my football updates from your unique takes and awesome banter. Thanks for giving me a small escape from school. Please keep the podcast coming. And that's from Jeremy.
Thank you, Jeremy. Good luck in medical school. I am impressed just by anyone who makes the decision and follows through on going to medical school.
It's a commitment.
Yes, it's a commitment, and we are very happy to give you anything to sort of break up the studying and the stressing and the academics of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Last one is a 5 stars from Al Steezy. And I promise we did not pay for this one. It says, best podcast for college football. As an iHeart SC fan, I've been searching for a podcast that is devoted to them, and I appreciate you both.
Well, thank you. Short, sweet, and to the point. And yeah, we will absolutely take those 5 stars and that crown.
Yeah, there's nothing we love more than to be told that we're awesome, as anyone should. And being the recipient of an Apple Podcast review also helps grow the show, and you can help grow the show here live on YouTube if you're joining us by liking the video. Hit the button. We'll wait one quick second. Wait for it. There we go. Awesome. You did it. And then subscribe to the show as well. It helps grow, and we know that way you'll be back for tomorrow when we preview Utah, and then Saturday night when we look back at the Utah game, the Trojans and the Utes at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Alicia, there's a lot to talk about in this episode, so why don't we just get right into it and go right to the news? We shall start with the only news update that we have at this point. Rankings updates. SC is down in the AP poll despite winning. The Trojans are 6-0 for the first time since 2006, and yet they're down in the AP poll 1 spot. This, of course, because Tennessee put the hurting on LSU in Death Valley and moved up from 6th to 8th. The Trojans held firm in the coaches poll to 6th, and in the Sagarin rankings are down to 10th. But it's early. It's October. A lot of football to play, and especially in, not the Sagarin rankings matter anymore. The BCS doesn't exist, but Utah is 7th in Sagarin. There's room to move up this week. We'll see how that goes. Other Pac-12 teams in the AP poll, UCLA moves up 7 spots after their beating of Utah up to number 11. Oregon holds at number 12, and the Utes fall 9 places after losing to UCLA down to number 20. Look at that, though. 3 Pac-12 teams in the top 12.
Pretty cool. I mean, the nice thing there is that USC and UCLA don't play until the end of the season. So if both of those teams hold firm, that game is set up to be a real great one in terms of ranking, matchup, and everything like that.
Yeah.
Just on USC moving down. Oops. That for once it wasn't me. 99% of the time it's me hitting my mic.
Put my water glass over there and not over there.
USC down to number 7. I think it's frustrating on one hand and understandable on the other. Tennessee was always going to get more credit for beating LSU the way that they beat LSU than USC was going to get for beating Washington State. The only thing that frustrates me is that USC has missed out on the opportunity for ranked wins by sheer just happenstance a few times this season. Yeah. Oregon State
State should have been ranked. Washington State should have been ranked.
Yeah, 26th or 27th. Washington State was 26th. LSU was a number 25 team. There's no reason that Washington State could have been ranked ahead of LSU and USC getting the top 25 win and LSU not. It's just one of those things where this is why people complain about maybe biases going the West Coast or anything like that. But at the same time, the rankings right now relative to a team like Tennessee don't matter because Tennessee plays Bama, and they will either have a win that clearly takes them ahead of USC after this weekend, or they will have a loss and it won't matter. USC will get that spot back if USC wins. So it's all just politics.
As much as I say that, Oregon State and Washington State should have been ranked and they should have been 22 or 23 or whatever it is. At the same time, I don't think there's a difference between the 22 ranked team and the 26 ranked team. They're all in the same area. And then the flip side of this is, as much as I complain about the SEC getting the benefit of the doubt for these teams that always start 4-0 and suddenly they're ranked number 13 or whatever. Are you surprised that 4-1 LSU was ranked like 25th last week? And Texas just beat OU. They're 4-2, and you can make the argument that if they had a healthy quarterback, they'd be 6-0. And they are tied for 22nd. Like, as much as we complain about the polls for name brands, and mind you, SC benefits as being a name brand. The only reason SC is ahead of UCLA right now, when UCLA has 2 ranked wins, is that SC started ahead of UCLA. UCLA didn't have the preseason ranking, right? Like that plays a big role. So SC benefits from this.
Yes, absolutely.
But it is kind of shocking that Texas is only 22nd to me.
Yeah, but the 2 losses were a thing. Like they were ranked. The problem is the timing of their losses, because they fell out of the rankings at an inopportune time and then had to climb back in. And so, yeah, that they just had to sort of wipe the slate clean and start over. I think that's why Texas is where they are. But at the same time, like, I don't know. Do I think that Washington State, if you flipped the resumes between USC and Washington State going into last week, would a USC team ranked 4-1 be ranked? Absolutely. That's not even a question. Right. So I think this is more just like Washington State lack of respect than anything.
I guess what I'm saying is Kentucky is the same, not a brand that Washington State
but Kentucky is. But Kentucky's SEC, and Kentucky was undefeated.
Kentucky did beat Florida. So
yeah. But then it turned out Florida's not that great. So, this is why the rankings, they do matter, but they don't matter, but they also do matter, because perception at the start of the season will impact where you land across the season. And teams got credit for beating Florida before people realized that Florida wasn't that great. Right. And, I think USC could have gotten credit for beating Fresno State before it became very clear that, like, Fresno State's having troubles this season, although, injuries. But, yeah, it's all wonky.
Last thing before we move on, I am honestly surprised not a single person voted for Texas A&M.
They've been really bad. Like,
no, I get it. But they almost beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and they didn't get a single vote. Like, I don't hate it. I'm just like, I'm surprised at the discipline people had.
I think everyone has sort of recognized that Texas A&M and Bama are just like a matchup thing, like a weird rivalry thing, and that Texas A&M team is not good, and them beating Alabama would have been kind of a fluke.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they were a couple of yards away from doing it, and yet they did not. All right, let's talk about USC after their Washington State win. The Trojans, of course, beating Washington State 30-14 at the Coliseum on Saturday night. It was a raucous Coliseum. SC gets a cover 16-point win. We talked about it before. Maybe not the offensive explosion that you hoped from the Trojans. But if your 16-point wins are the ones that are the the dicey games are the ones that end up as a 16-point win, that is a hell of a statement for the foundation that you have as a football team, especially considering, what the Meg games were like in the previous regime. SC is certainly in a good place. They are battle-tested, but more than anything right now, here in this Followed episode, Alicia, I want to talk about statistics.
Let's do it. They're interesting.
There are a lot of fascinating statistics. SC ranks in the top 5 in the country in a bunch of things. Let me just rattle some off for you. First in interceptions with 12. First in sacks at 4 per game. First in turnover margin, plus 233 per game. First in turnovers lost 1. They've lost 1 turnover all year. They're tied with San Jose State there. First in fumbles lost, 0. Second in forced turnovers, 15. Second in defensive turnovers, 3. Fourth in interceptions thrown, only 1. There was a second one that was brought back for a penalty against Washington State, a defensive hold on that play from Saturday night, but still only 1, 4th in the country. And now 5th in red zone defense, the Trojans holding their opponents to a 63.6 scoring mark. What say you about all those big numbers?
Those are all very impressive defensive numbers that I think, with the exception of the sort of turnovers lost, which is obviously a very good offensive mark, goes to show why this defense is so fascinating right now, because it certainly has felt throughout the season that this defense is not good. And yet the numbers bear out that not only are they not good, but they're like great to a certain degree. And I think that's just so hard to square with how vulnerable they look in terms of yards given up and all of those kinds of things. But when you lead the nation, we're not talking about Pac-12 rankings here. We're talking about leading the nation.
We're not talking about practice either.
We're not talking about practice either. These are in real life games. You lead the nation in things like sacks and interceptions. That's just the remarkable thing that allows this defense to be effective and to have the overall impact that they have. That game against Washington State is very, very different if the defense doesn't play the way that they play. I think that it's as I said in the CarCast,
game is very different if they don't force those 2 fumbles.
The second half of the Stanford game gets very, very nervy. If
the Oregon State game is different, they don't force 4 turnovers in that game.
Yeah, and I think that this is one of the things that I tweeted about on Sunday with regard to the rankings is, and again, I don't mind that Tennessee jumped USC. They were impressive, to be sure. But I think it's interesting that at the start of the season, everyone was saying like, oh, USC looks legit, but that defense. And like the last 3 weeks, it's the defense that's won the games. It's the defense that's made sure that the games weren't in danger at any point, really. And yet I don't hear national voices coming around on, actually, look at that defense. But actually, look at these numbers on that defense. But actually, after 6 games, we can't say that like this luck is going to run out, because through 6 games, they've consistently put up these numbers. So like the correction of the perception of this USC team isn't really happening. And so it's sort of hard to.
I think it's difficult though, because part of the crazy thing about so many of these numbers is some of them are very specific. Sacks and interceptions; those are mainline popular numbers. Turnover margin, you like interception, sacks, and turnover margin, along with like yards per play and total defense, and scoring defense. Those are your big boys. And so like, yes, those are being seen, but SC has some stats in here that I don't think are being seen compared to other ones. Let me just explain that. SC is 64th in yards per play defensively. That's not exciting. They're 67th in third down conversions against. Not exciting. 89th in first downs allowed. That's not exciting. 105th in yards per carry. So we talk about rush defense a lot on this show, and we talk about it at the yards per carry clip because we don't want to. Yards per game is totally skewed. You got garbage time in there. You got, some teams have played more games than others. It's easier to talk about yards per carry. And so to me, that means that SC is 105th in rush defense. And you look at that, how can you definitively rank a team number 6 in the country if they're 105th in rush defense? Well, let's talk about the nuance to that. And then this is the problem with USC's defense right now, and why they're not, I think, getting the benefit of the doubt nationally in terms of narratives, is because there's nuance involved. And you have to go to the nuance there, which is that the rush defense is 105th, but yet in the first half, they're 123rd at 6 yards per carry, but in the second half, they're allowing half of that, 27th. They allow 50 rushing yards per game in the second half. And the second half is just insane for the Trojans. SC is third in defensive passer rating in the second half at 84.9. Have not allowed a single touchdown in the second half. Obviously, that's tops in the nation. SC has forced 7 interceptions in the second half. Tops in the nation. In the third quarter alone, the quarter that we talk about,
sets the tone.
We talked about throughout the Helton era as being the problem area, right? The third quarter, the dreaded third quarter. SC is holding opponents to a passer rating of 56.5. Number 1 in the country. Opponents are completing 44% of their passes in the third quarter. Like, that's an incredible mark, but who's looking up that number? That number isn't easy to find. The one that's 105th in rush defense is easier to find. SC has only allowed 9 passes of 20 plus yards all season, 5th in the country. That number, not easy to find. It's easy to find that SC is, get in total defense is nothing to write home about.
And if you're a national voter or anyone, especially when USC has games starting at 7:30 Pacific, or even in prime time, 4:30 Pacific, those are later in the day. How long is the national audience really paying attention to the USC defense? It's much more likely that they've seen the first and second quarter defense than the third quarter defense, or even clocked that, like, it wasn't just this one third quarter, it's been every third quarter this season. So yeah, perception is difficult to beat back against when you're not necessarily paying as close of attention as we are to the minutia of where the defense flips the script and where they come alive. So I get it. I absolutely get it. And as someone, where we do, I mean, we dive deeper into the stats than just the basic.
We're doing like 5 hours of podcast a week.
Yeah, but like when we preview a team, like when we go ahead and get ready for the Utah preview for tomorrow, I'm not going to necessarily look at third quarter splits when I look at. Right. I mean, now I might want to, just as a comparison, but that's not the go-to stats that we're looking at. So when we are evaluating opposing teams, we're looking at what our eyes have seen when we've tuned in, when we have opportunities to tune in. And then also we go through a whole rundown full of stats that we're putting together. Yeah. But for all intents and purposes, it's still sort of surface level. We aren't in the weeds on Utah. We aren't in the weeds on Washington State. Yeah. So, like, I'm not blaming anybody for this, but I do think that it is time to start giving this defense some credit. And I hope that against Utah, they'll have an opportunity to really make a statement, and that it doesn't sort of like that. This isn't the week that the luck runs out in the worst possible way. Because I think once you get through that game, there won't be a chance to disregard this defense in the same way after that situation.
Well, the SC Utah game is prime time, and it's going up against 2 games that I don't think are remotely interesting.
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing, is that this week of college football action is outstanding.
But
the prime time, everything after 4:00 is pretty. I mean, like the USC game is clearly the bell of the ball there, unless you're like an ACC fan who wants to watch Clemson, Florida State. So most of the big hitting games are done earlier in the game. There will be a lot of eyeballs on USC Utah. So it really is a statement game that USC is going to have to rise to the occasion for, because I think the narrative around USC will directly reflect more than the 6 games that came prior. the narrative around this USC team as a whole will be dictated by that game.
Yeah. I did want to get to an email from Davis who says, true or false, USC is the best defense in the Pac-12. And before you answer, consider this. USC is the only defense in the conference that is yet to give up 30 points in a game. Even undefeated UCLA has given up 30-plus 3 times. They also lead the conference in interceptions, sacks, tackles for loss, and the opponent's passing efficiency. If you take out games against FCS opponents, USC leads the conference in total yards allowed per game as well. Fight on, Davis, class of 2020. Yeah, I wanted to talk about this too because so we go back to talking about USC's defense, and like classically speaking, it's hard to say that SC is the best defense when, again, they're 105th in rush defense, right? But scoring defense, SC, leads in scoring defense, sacks, interceptions, turnover mark, like those are all the hallmarks of what we consider a good defense. And yeah, the yardage doesn't look nearly as mediocre on the defense in the Pac-12 rankings as it does the national rankings.
But everybody in the Pac-12, I saw a tweet that was looking at the ranks for Pac-12 defenses across the board, and there's a lot of teams in the Pac-12 that are real low nationally. Yeah. Now, is that a reflection of the offenses in the Pac-12 or the Pac-12 defense? I think the offenses are better. It's hard to say. Yeah.
I think Washington took a big step forward. I think Oregon took a big step forward. Arizona took a big step forward. We know SC is taking a step forward. I think the offenses
UCLA certainly has.
Yes, the offenses have gotten better in the conference. So I think I want to see more before I say SC has the best defense. I think Utah has a shout in this. They obviously gave up 40+ to UCLA last week. We know UCLA themselves have an argument there. So I think Washington State has an argument for one of the best defenses. But the difference right now is nobody's creating those havoc plays like the Trojans.
Yes, and so that's why I would certainly go as far to say that USC through 6 games, it's sort of we're giving out midseason awards. USC is the most effective defense in the Pac-12. Does that mean they're the best? On a play-by-play basis, I think in order to be the best defense, you need to be more stout than we've seen. You can't have the first half numbers that we've seen from USC's defense, just in general, because, I mean, as much as I say that, like, don't disregard this defense because of turnover luck or whatever.
There's going to be a game where the adjustments don't work, right?
Yeah, and there will be a game where, the missed assignment blows up and it's a touchdown instead of a 40-yard gain that you happen to keep in front of you and then get the turnover in the red zone. Like, those kinds of things will come around. I give this defense a ton of credit for creating the luck that they've created, but you can't give up yardage in the first half the way that this team has given up yardage in the first half to be considered a great defense. And I think we talked about this in a prior episode. It might have been the CarCast, but the difference between great teams and good teams and bad teams is consistency, especially when you're at USC's level and you can boast the talent level that USC can boast. So you're more often than not, you're not differentiating between is USC a bad or a good team. More often than not, you're differentiating between USC being a good and a great team. The difference between the good and the great teams is not necessarily performance ceiling, performance ability. It's usually what percent of plays are you playing positively. The problem with past USC teams has been that there were too many negative plays canceling out the positive plays that they were capable of, and we would just sit here talking about how, well, man, if only they played like this all the time, then and things came together all at once, then it would be fine. And we're still looking at this team and asking, like, when are they going to play a perfect game? And I can still apply the same thing to the defense. When are we going to see a perfect game from the defense? Because right now they're 50-50, and the 50 on the second half is elite level, but the other side is not elite. And so instead of how can I compare it? It's like on a test. You have 100 questions, you get 50 of them right, and they're the best answers that have ever been given, but you get 50 of them wrong, you're still coming out with you're still coming out with a fail. Now, that's not quite the same what we're seeing from this defense. It's probably more like 70-30, but that still means they're not at an A+ level.
Mhm.
They're not even, I mean, they're maybe scratching a B at this point, because you can't have the missteps in the first half and expect to be called the best defense. Most effective, sure. Best, you gotta step up in the first half in order to claim that title.
Yeah, and you have a great opportunity Saturday night to do that at Rice Eccles against the quarterback who, going into the season, I think people put a lot of eggs in the basket as potentially being the best quarterback in the conference, and Cam Rising. As it stands right now, I think it's a coin flip between DTR and Caleb Williams, but Cameron Rising more than capable of certainly hurting you. And another part of this defense I want to talk about is I put out a tweet Saturday during the game about, is it time to talk about Tuli Tuipulotu? Why did I screw this up again?
You had trouble last time too.
I don't know why.
It's in your head.
Tuipulotu. It's not hard.
It's not.
Hard. It's not hard. I'm like Tim Brando all of a sudden. The thing about Tuli, I'm like, at what point do we start talking about Tuli for All-American? And I made a comment that I find it difficult to talk about individual players being All-Americans, and I mean less literally about will they be an All-American and more are they an All-American caliber player? Because I'm not watching every game in college football. That as good as Tuli could be, there could be a dude at NC State who is just even better, right? That I'm not paying attention to. And this is one of the reasons why you and I were both involved with the Football Writers of America, the FWAA. We would vote on All-American teams and stuff like that and vote for some of the award winners. I stopped paying my dues so I didn't have to do that anymore. Because
it doesn't feel fair.
It feels weird that I'm going to vote for the All-Americans. Like, who am I to say who the best left tackle in the country is, or the best right guard? Like, I'm not watching all the games. Like, I can't possibly do that. I don't know enough. Like, it's difficult. So take that for what it's worth. But then I was looking at the numbers a little bit more. Tuli is number 1 in the country in sacks. 7. Nobody else has 7 sacks. He's second in the country in tackles for loss with 12.5. Is that half sack off the national lead there? He has a season pace of 2.08 tackles for loss per game, which is we'll say 27 tackles for loss if he plays 13 games. If he plays 14 games, it's like 29 tackles for loss. Well, Tim Ryan holds a USC record with 28 in 1989. So he's on pace to absolutely Aaron Judge that thing and be right there. Right.
We're gonna have national cut-ins to USC games.
Yeah. It's third down. We're gonna have to go back to the S in the Coliseum. Can Tuli get him on third down? Yeah. I don't know. BKU Kenichi Udeze led the Pac-10 with 26 tackles for loss in 2003. He was the last Trojan with 20 plus. Again, Tuli right on pace to get there. The crazy thing is, again, how many does Tuli right now have?
Tackles for loss?
Yeah.
12.
12.5.
12.5, yeah.
Tuli Tuipulotu has 12.5 tackles per loss in 2022 through 6 games. Leonard Williams, his career high in tackles for loss. Are you ready for this?
12.
13.5 in 13 games as a freshman in 2012. That was his best mark.
It's crazy, man.
Again, Tuli has 12.5 in 6 games. In the Pac-12, the most recent player to have a similar pace to Tuli's mark of 2.08, you got to go all the way back to 2014. Arizona's Scooby Wright. Remember Scooby Wright? He had 2.07 tackles for loss per game in 2014 with 29 in 14 games.
Scooby was great. I was a big fan of Scooby. So.
Yeah, if there's an all-decade team for the Pac-12, he's on it, right? Yeah. Just because of how crazy that season was. Mind you, I looked this up. Colorado's Carson Wells, outside linebacker for the Buffs, 2 years ago in the COVID season that we don't talk about because it did not exist. 16 tackles for loss in 6 games? What?
I don't know.
What?
I don't know. There's a reason we don't talk about that season. Was Colorado just playing a bunch of teams who had walk-ons playing
what
at
in the name
tackle?
of Madden is that? Jeez.
We need to do a deep dive, look at what happened with Carson Wells to figure that one out.
I don't know. Anyways, last year's Lombardi winner, Aiden Hutchinson, 16.5 sacks. And again, Tui Pelotu.
6.5 tackles for loss.
Sorry, 16.5 tackles per loss from Aiden Hutchinson last year. Won the Lombardi, top pick for the NFL draft for all that stuff. Tui Pelotu, 12.5 through 6 games. He hit 16.5 in the whole season last year. That's just tackles for loss. We talk about sacks. Tui is at 1.2 sacks per game, is on pace for 15, which again would be more than Aiden Hutchinson's 14 last year in a 13-game season. BKU, the most recently in USC history in the last 20 years, had 16.5 in 2003. So Tuli needs to sort of up the pace / hope that he gets 14, 15 games to maybe get there. But still, super, super havoc-y is Tuli Tuipulotu. And how rare is his 7 sacks? This, to me, I think might be the craziest one. Again, 7 sacks in only 6 games. Only one USC player in those 9 years has had more than 7 in an entire season. And we're talking about 7 in 6 games. One player. Do you know who that one player is?
Port Augustine?
Rasheem Green.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Only guy who's had more than 7 in a single season. He had, I think he had 10 in 2017. So, yes, the whole point is
Tuli's good.
Tuli Pelotu for Lombardi, Nagurski, Bednarik, anything. He's start getting the campaign ready, start getting the graphics ready, all of that. Get it ready to go.
Yeah, he's. Here's the thing too. I think this is a big credit to Alex Grinch, to Sean Nua, the defensive line coach, to the entire scheme, because they are getting after the quarterback, and Tuli is certainly leading the way, but there's been really great production from Nick Figueroa, from Tyrone Taleni, from Solomon Byrd. All of those guys are thriving in pass rush, and the pass
all those other guys help him out too.
Yes, and he helps them out too. I guess my question for the second half of the season is, have teams, which I can't believe that they wouldn't have been keying on him. Like if we went into the season talking about the defensive line, like I think we did talk about the defensive line in this sense. It's Tuipulotu, and it's like a bunch of So right. I can't imagine that opposing offensive coordinators haven't been looking at USC and going, number one thing we got to do is stop Tuli Tuipulotu. And I mean, I don't know that I've been paying attention to whether or not he's being double teamed or anything like that. But my question would be, in the second half of the season,
bring him on.
Is our offense is going to start taking more of their game plan and focusing it around keeping him from going off?
I hope they do.
Because that'll open up so many things for his teammates. But that's to me, there are only 2 things that can stop Tuli Tuipulotu at this point. Number 1 is injury, because that's always the reality in sports. And number 2, it's if he's almost too good, and now the offense is just all about keeping him from being productive, which is not the end of the world, because the more you have to focus on him, the more the other guys can step up. But this is really even beyond what I expected from him.
Yeah,
going into the season, and he's. We knew that he had incredible talent when he was young and playing alongside his brother. But
he's still pretty young.
He's still pretty young, but I didn't expect him to surpass Marlon Tuipulotu.
That was the thing I was thinking about. I remember when SC got Marlon Tuipulotu as a commitment. Remember the whole flip from Washington, and not only the flip, but he was going to early enroll, be an early enrollee. That was a big ass deal.
Yeah.
And I remember tweeting from the Reign of Troy account, like this guy bringing in a big marlin fish, and like I was so proud of myself for that dumb tweet. And it was a huge moment. And we were looking at it as if he was going to be the big catalyst on that defensive line. And I'm not taking anything away from Marlin. Marlin was a very serviceable defensive lineman. Serviceable probably isn't giving him justice. He was a very good defensive lineman. But compared to what Thule has done, Thule outplayed him in his freshman season when they were both together in that year we don't talk about of 2020.
Certainly Thule is more explosive, more capable of getting on the stat sheet. I think Marlin probably is still harder to move in the run game. So if that's one area that like Thule could lift his game a little bit.
Sure.
Well, and that's the thing, different roles, different skill set to a point. Like Marlin, even when he came in, it was a discussion of he is ready to play now. And he's going to be sort of the big body that can be a run stopper. And when Thule came in, it was very clear, like, this guy's a pass rusher. So, there's always areas of his game that he can improve. But he has already become more important to the team than Marlin was.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I just didn't expect that. I really didn't expect that. And like I said, kudos to Sean Nua, because he takes some flack. He takes a lot of flack about the run defense and all of that. But to me, I've seen,
I feel like people don't talk about Sean Nua enough.
Oh no, if you jump on certain message boards or whatever, you see people questioning Sean Nua and you see people wondering about Sean Nua. To me, the defensive line has performed well beyond expectations. And to me, the run defense is still a reflection of
there's no nose tackle.
There's personnel issues. There's scheme issues about what the scheme is prioritizing. There's linebacker issues. There's a million different issues.
Okay. Can we talk about what the scheme is prioritizing? I'm not saying that this is the case, but like, let's talk about the whole blanket theory.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're new to Ready for Radio and the blanket theory, it's that the blanket is not big enough, folks. It is not a big enough blanket. And if you are warming up, are you going to keep your little toesies out and uncovered? Or are you going to cover up your toes and keep your shoulders out and uncovered, or what have you? Something's got to be uncovered and something's got to be covered up. Right now, SC is giving up runs like in the Washington State game right up the middle. It was a bunch of inside zones right up the middle that would go for 12 yards a pop. That was the issue. Everything else, SC had covered.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so
and even
if you have everything else covered,
the proof is in the pudding, is it not? This all the stats that we've already displayed, that we've already talked about this episode, that, like, to me, that proof is in the pudding. It's
if the thing is that, like, you're going to be bad on rush defense in the first half, but then you're going to make adjustments in the second half and you're going to shut everything else down and you're going to force turnovers, I'm taking that.
Yeah.
I'm taking that every day of the week.
And what was it? It's not in our stat rundown, but you talked to me about the third down rush defense is actually very good, even in short yardage. So it's not like they can't stop those runs down the middle. Certainly the edge has not been exploited the way that the previous years we sort of were pulling our hair out because teams were just exploiting USC on the outside. So that has definitely been addressed. But yeah, there's always going to, especially with this defense, which we talked about from the get-go, doesn't have a ton of depth and has some personnel question marks about sort of fits in the scheme and working with what you've got. If you're going to talk about working with what you got, I think the USC has done an incredible job of that.
Yeah.
The one, like I said before, the big question that I have for this defense is, if you can do it in the second half, why can't you do it in the first half? And if you have if you're focused enough to not get beat or not miss your assignments or stuff in the second half, then why aren't you doing that in the first half? Like, that would be my only question.
Sure.
But at the same time, again, I'm not delusional.
You'd rather have a great second half.
Yes,
defense,
and
right?
and this is one of, I forget who it was, someone on Twitter was saying that Grinch runs the I think it was actually Brandon, our barbecue buddy, who said that like Grinch runs the same defense that we all run in NCAA football, which is just like, remember the Titans, blitz all night, like just go 100% in on havoc. And
I'm gonna get to you before you can throw the ball.
Yes, and I'm gonna, if I'm gonna give up, if my run blitzes are gonna just not be in the right direction, or you're gonna counter them or do whatever, and they're not effective, like I'm gonna let you have that 20-yard run because I'm gonna get that sack eventually, and you're gonna be in third and forever, and you're not gonna convert it. And I 100% can get behind that. Knowing what this defense is. Now, do I want that to be the game plan necessarily for USC 2 years from now, where it's living on that edge? Maybe not, but for now, absolutely, you take that and you run with it for all it's worth.
Well, at some point, there's going to be a team who, like I said, where the second half adjustments don't work because they're going to be able to commit to the run or find a different wrinkle.
Yes.
And still be able to run. Mind you, Washington State, we talked about the second half numbers. Washington State ran the ball just as well, if not better, in the second half.
They broke a couple long ones.
And that's because of those couple long runs.
Yeah.
So, like, SC's defense as a whole has been significantly better in the second half. In rushing specifically against Washington State, the numbers don't exactly bear that one out, but all told through 6 games.
But the performance did. Yes. From what we saw, that was still what it was about. I want to point out Dave and OC in the chat says this strategy is what we've been asking for years. Score enough points that the teams we play have to pass, and then pin our ears back, get sacks and turnovers. Yes, this is a winning formula.
That was my game plan last night in Madden.
In Madden, yeah. Your big win in Madden.
I'm in a Madden league. Got a big win against a user. I'm super pumped. The whole strategy was the guy likes to run the football. I just weathered the running the football stage until I could, force him to throw the football. And then once we force him to throw the football, like it's anyone's game.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that. So
I can get behind it. That's all I'm saying. I can get behind it.
Yeah.
I'm still going to be realistic though. I fully expect this to backfire one game, but
Sure.
making it through 6 and not having it backfire is already well ahead of my expectations.
Yeah, and thankfully for SC, they don't have to play Michael Penix or Bo Nix.
Yes. So.
Yeah. All right, let's get to looking back at USC's our over-under picks for USC's game against Washington State. All right, or should I say Washington State? Who says Washington? Like, is that a regional thing? It's got to be, but like,
I've certainly
I don't
heard
know what
it.
Region says
Washington.
Washington.
Yeah, no idea.
I don't know. It's weird. It's not as cool as like people pronouncing Williams as like the Y's, like Williams.
Williams.
That sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, Washington Williams.
Water is another.
Water. Well, that's isn't that Pittsburgh?
It's a mid-Atlantic thing. I think that you get water in like I want to say like the Maryland. Maybe we should ask like Chris Trevino about it.
Yeah. If he's a water
Jersey
guy.
Says water too. Water.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to over under. Going into last week's picks, you were 18-20. I was 20-18. Your first pick was over under 136.5 rushing yards for the USC Trojans. The Trojans have been averaging 138.8, but Washington State was very good in rush defense and holding teams down. I took the over, locks you into the under. It was way over 181. It was the biggest night of rushing in Travis Dye's career as a Trojan.
Yeah, I'll take that one. My bad, Dye. A
little too low.
I lowballed this one and I paid for it. But even if I hadn't lowballed it, I still would have lost it, I think.
Yeah, my next one was over under 2.5 Cam Ward interceptions. He had 7 in his previous 4 games going into Saturday night. He had thrown exactly 2 in each of his 3 games against Power 5 opponents. And we know SC leads the world in turnovers and all those things. You took the under still which locks me into the over, and it was under. He didn't throw a single pick.
This is my favorite.
No turnovers in the whole game.
This is my favorite kind of over-under, where it's like, yes, this is the trend. This is the thing we absolutely expect. This is the thing when we talk about Cam Ward that we're going to talk about. Great quarterback, but turnover prone. And then you go for it, and bam, 0. Just like the special teams question that we had about, like, this is going to be the team the day that special teams catches up to USC, and then suddenly it's like, no, special teams not a factor in this game. Also, USC special teams was the better special
Spoiler
teams.
alert.
So yeah, love it. I mean, I would have loved like 5 Cam Ward interceptions more, but I love winning the over/under with the under.
There you go. Your next one was 2.5 red zone TDs for the Cougs. They had scored 3+ in all but one game, and SC was not allowing very many. I took the under, and it was under 2. The Cougars were exactly 2 of 2 in the red zone, both of them coming early in the second quarter, the only time that Wazoo ended up scoring.
Yeah, I just thought Wazoo would score more points. That's my bad.
Yeah, and USC's defense was like, nah.
Yeah,
no.
big nah.
Yeah. My next one was over under 33.5 for Washington State's longest kickoff return. Like you talked about, special teams, Trojans had been no bueno, muy basura in the special teams department. But things turned around. You took the over on 33.5 as Washington State's longest kickoff return, which locks me into the under, and it was 29, which, interestingly enough, I thought SC was very good in special teams on Saturday night. They weren't giving up long returns, and they got a few of their own. And I looked at the numbers. Malik Brown's 29-yard return was 29 yards, just as long as the longest one that SC gave up. I'm like, what? It didn't feel like that.
No.
But that's how the numbers bear it out.
But you know what it was? And I would be curious to know why Washington State did this, but they seemed like they had no interest in returning kicks at all. Like they were fair catching
That's
everything.
The dream.
And like, to me, that plays right into USC's hands. So like, I don't know. That's what we would like that. But then really came out and was like, no, it's okay if I return this. I'm gonna get yardage. So
yeah. Speaking of Madden, that's me in Madden. I don't return anything.
That's smart.
Just a reason to fumble.
Take your yards and take your points.
Yeah, that's right. Well, then taking points, I don't know.
Points. Always
No. Next one. You said over under 4.5 sacks. You were optimistic as hell. 4.5 sacks for SC. Wazoo was allowing 3 per game. Of course, the Trojans had 4+ in all but one game, 5 sacks and 3. I said under because that line was just way too high. 4.5 sacks. Even though if SC had the proof in the pudding that wasn't the crazy line, it just sounds crazy. Locks you into the over, and of course it was over because SC is who we thought they were, a sack-making machine.
This is my favorite over-under line I have ever set. Because I went with 4.5 because I wanted to bait you into taking the under. And I knew I was taking a risk, but that line was set because I wanted to control which way your over-under went. And it paid off beautifully. But also scarily, because USC had that explosion of sacks in the first half, and then they hit 4, and then it got late in the game, and I was like, I think it was Nick Figueroa who saved me, and it was late in the game. It was sort of last minute, not last minute literally, it was just sort of late to get to number 5, and I did like a fist bump when I saw it in stat broadcast, because there was another sack before that was counted as a tackle for loss because it was sort of like a broken play, and it wasn't designated as a passing play, I guess. But sweating bullets, got my over under. Feel really good about that one.
There you go. Well, this is the one that I set high, hoping for something, and you took the under 4.5 on the under of Brendan Rice catches. 4.5 means that if he hit the over, it'd be his career high, or tied his career high from last year at Colorado. You, of course, took the under, and it was under. It was 3. Brendan Rice, just 3 straight games of 3 catches.
He's just a 3-catch guy. That's he
looks to me.
He pops up 3 times, contributes to the offense, reliable, and that's just what he's going to be apparently.
Yeah. So for the week, you went 3-3. I went 3-3. We're just steadily moseying along.
Mm-hmm.
You're 21-23. I'm 23-21. But for the Rotbots, this was a hell of a week.
Jeez.
Big shouts to ET and Torrance. Love the South Bay representation here, by the way. Torrance. 6-0 ET wins. 6-0.
That's impressive.
Celebrate with the special C, my guy. Jeez. 5-1, there was a plethora of you. Dave in Orange County, Cameron in Frisco, Texas, 28 pitch. Jay Vandy, Rick in PV. Look at that. Some more South Bay representation. Randy from Redlands, Ocean Beach Trojans, Carrie from Chicago, Piuelo. Our good buddy Steve from the Bay Area, Wavy Gravy. Big Poppy 55, LA Fred, Cali Matt, Trojan Mighty Duck, and that Beast Out West, all with a 5-1 record in over-under last week.
The Rotbots were on it. You love to see it.
Yep.
I tip my cap to you.
Yeah.
Or I tip Michael's cap to you.
That works. Season leaders so far. Here's the top 10 as it stands right now. Tied for 7th, there's 4 of you. Carrie from Chicago, Monterey, Michelle, Piuelo, and Tat Freak with a record of 27-17. There are 4 of you tied for 3rd. Callie Matt, LA Fred, Randy from Redlands, and Ryan from Arizona at 28-16. 1 game better solely in 2nd place is Callie Cat at 29-15. And in 1st with now a 2-game lead with a 31-13 record. One of the 5-1 winners this past week, Jay Vandy.
Jay Vandy's on top. Callie Cat is going to have to come back next week with a big week to reclaim that title. Callie Matt is up there. You love to see it. Power couple working it. It's a good time. It's a good time, and apparently I lost my co. Hi.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, a little inside baseball. The whole point, we'll talk about it later. You're supposed to just play along.
I know.
You're not supposed to just ruin it there.
I know.
The YouTube listeners will know what went down. All right, game predictions. Bill Connolly said SC would win by 9.1 points with a 70% win probability. His score prediction was 33-23. Vegas had the Trojans by 13 with we did our little math thing, and that'd be like 29.5 to 26.5. You said SC 35, Washington State 24, and I said I really like that, but I ended up going bolder. I went 37-20. Of course, SC wins 30-14. I want to say I was very close with the gap there. SC wins by 16. I predicted a 17-point win.
You did, and I am going to have to start adjusting my picks here, my predictions, because I keep predicting as though this defense is a 25-point defense, and they're just not. They are just not. I got to start putting respect on their name. My bad.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get into the mailbag, shall we? If you're joining us here on the old YouTube, be sure to pop in the chat with some questions. We've been starring a bunch of questions as well and noting those down. But I want to start with an email we got from Tom in the Cayman Islands, who says, "Hi, Alicia and Michael. If the Oklahoma legislature wants to pass a bill to name the last 3 inches of a highway after Lincoln Riley, should they also make an amendment to the bill, so that the off-ramp at the end of those 3 inches is named after Brent Venables, who you put out on a gravel road? If you can't put it out on a gravel road, Tom in the Cayman Islands. P.S. I got a chance to go to the Fresno State game, and I have to say I really like the upgraded experience at the Coliseum."
Yeah, thanks for the email, Tom. I continually say my family members who go to the Coliseum all come back raving about the new Coliseum. I personally love it. I'm bummed that it's going to be a little while longer before I get back there. But Oklahoma.
Oklahoma's in a very depressing state right now. Honestly,
I feel bad because I genuinely thought, and I'm not going to write him off yet, but Brent Venables was a good hire.
Yeah, I think so too. It's early. It doesn't help that Dylan Gabriel got hurt. And to me, what's depressing about Oklahoma isn't necessarily their defense. It's the whole Wildcat thing. It's just like very depressing
their defense is also depressing. Like, don't get it twisted. But yeah, they have a lot of work to do, and Sooners fans maybe getting some cosmic karma for all of the really disgusting things that they had to say about Lincoln Riley and his family.
Yeah, so I don't know. All right, let's go to a tweet we got from Maskless, who says, "What are your thoughts on the Matt Rule firing? Do you think he has an interest in a college job?" He's
got $40 million on the table guaranteed with the Panthers, so technically he does not need to go back and get a job in college, but I would expect him to take his pick. I think he's going to have his pick. If I were Nebraska, ASU, Auburn, pretty much any team that's going to be out there looking for a new head coach, he would be my number one pick of currently unemployed options. Like, unless you have the ability to do what USC did to get Lincoln Riley, like, he should be your number one. Yes, where he would lean, because I don't know. If I'm Matt Rule, Nebraska is a huge rebuild. ASU's a dumpster fire.
But what does Matt Rule excel in doing?
Rebuild. He's a rebuild guy. Like, that's his whole thing. Dude. So, like, he might be perfect for Nebraska. He might be perfect for Auburn or ASU. I wouldn't touch ASU, honestly.
Who unlocks Nebraska.
That would be kind of cool. But if I were him, I would not go near ASU. I would look at Nebraska or one of the other jobs that comes.
We all want Nebraska to be good, right? Like,
yes. I want Nebraska to be good.
Like, because our childhood needs it. Yeah. Our childhood, but then people with an older from like their adulthood needs it, right?
Yeah. I love college football, like, brands to be good, especially because here's the thing. USC faces a lot of criticism about, like, crowds and all that kind of stuff. If anyone deserves to have their football team be good out of pure loyalty to a bad product, it's Nebraska. Yeah. Like,
Big T37 says Colorado. I can't see him going to Colorado, though, because you want my honest opinion about Matt Rule? If there's one coach I'm certain of, like, if you said all the coaches in America, pro and college, whoever, who I am the most certain will win a national championship who has yet to do it, honestly, it's Matt Rule.
I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, I would.
Over Lincoln Riley?
Yes. Let me explain why. Because I don't think Lincoln Riley is going to jump to the NFL, but I think that possibility exists.
Oh, so you say that Rule won't go back to the NFL, so he's going to have time.
Matt Rule is never going back to the NFL. His NFL time is completely exhausted. He is done in the NFL. He is banished, just like Steve Spurrier and Nick Saban were banished. He is going back to college, and he can only be a college coach. And so I put them on the same level, that I think both of them are going to win a national championship at some point, somewhere. To me, Matt Rule is the odds-on favorite of the two. But that's not me doubting Lincoln Riley. I have so much praise for Matt Rule, and I think he should take any job he wants. I can't imagine it being Colorado, but
no.
Yeah. All right, let's go to a message we got from Brandon, who says, "Hey, Alicia, random question. Do you have any insight control on what ads are playing on the podcast? The reason I ask is there was a super political one that came up, and I don't know what's going to pop up that may be worth mentioning. So some people might not know that it's not making you making the calls. If you guys have any insight and decision-making power for the ads, then disregard this message. I just figured to give you a heads up. You don't necessarily want someone getting turned off by an ad that's out of your control. Anyways, fight on. Thanks to you and the hubby for what you do. Love the show."
Yeah, and I replied to Brandon in that message, but we also wanted to sort of give an overall message to all of our listeners, we do not have control over what ads that you hear.
Yeah.
Those are based on sort of listener data that's through the service that puts together the ads. People who are in Los Angeles will get different ads than somebody who's in Washington or Kansas.
Are you just gonna stick with it now?
I'm running with it. I love it.
Okay.
It's like Worcester.
What's your sister sauce?
Yeah. Or any other British town like Leicester, or things that are just not pronounced the way that they're written.
Mm-hmm. Worcester.
Yeah, Worcester. Or Worcestershire. Yeah, Leicester, whatever. Those ads are all going to be different. People listening in England will have different ads. Our fans in South Korea are listening to something different. Than
the people in Australia are listening to ads for Macca's and Hungry Jacks.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we don't have control over these, and that means that you will get political ads, especially because it's midterm season, and that's just going to be what's on every podcast feed, every TV station, everything like that. So,
so if you're in California, it's going to be about the dialysis program.
Yes, probably, or sports gambling, whatever it comes down to. So. We just want to make it clear that we are not endorsing any of the ads that are there. They're what they're going to be. People have paid for that ad space, and we are a vehicle for them to get that out. So, no endorsements on ads unless you hear us saying it from our own mouths. It's coming from somewhere else.
The point is, we love to have advertisers support the show.
Yes.
But yes, when it comes to the programmatic ads that you listen to in Apple Podcasts, or I guess potentially on YouTube, like we're not necessarily choosing the specific thing. So if there's an ad for something that you don't like, it's not necessarily
us. Yeah.
But if it's an ad that you love, it's surely us.
Yes,
like we
100%.
yeah 100.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to a bunch of YouTube questions that we got. Josh Arena says, have you ever been to Oklahoma? It's a depressing state, flat, dry, nothing to look at. Okay, Josh, love you, man. But like, you're Josh from Buckeye Country. Like you're talking about Oklahoma being flat. The highest point in Ohio is like 400 feet, my guy.
Okay, so we watched a YouTube video. What was it? Was it Yes Theory or
Yes Theory?
Yeah, where they went to the quote unquote worst country in Europe. It was Moldova. And what I really loved about that video is that they went to the worst country in Europe to just see what it was like.
Yeah. Quote unquote the worst.
Quote unquote, because it was voted the worst country in Europe. And they went there and they had a wonderful time, and they met a lot of beautiful people, and they saw a lot of beautiful things. And like, that was the whole point of the video. It's just like, there's something about every place that people might love. Josh says there's more trees in Ohio. That's fair. My big thing is, like, I love Southern California. I think it's the place that I love and want to live. But there's something about every place that I've ever visited that I can appreciate. Even driving through the middle of the California, I know a lot of people don't like the sort of straw that you're driving down the 5 on, but like, I see beauty in that too.
The 5 is great, and when you get that scent,
well, okay, I could do without that. What is it? Kettleman.
It's almost to Kettleman City.
Yeah. Yeah, I could do without that, but there's something for everyone somewhere. And I've never been to Oklahoma. I'm sure there's beautiful places in Oklahoma. You've driven through? Did you drive through Oklahoma?
I haven't driven through Oklahoma. I went to, so my best friend used to live in Dallas. We took an afternoon and drove up to the WinStar Casino, which is just across the border, across the Red River, which is honestly legitimately red, like it's crazy. But we went to the WinStar, won a bunch of money at the casino. So yeah, I've been to Oklahoma.
Big T says it's like El Salvador. Everyone's scared of it. Really not that bad and gorgeous. Visit El Salvador, people. Like, yeah,
there you go.
I think there's something for everyone, and there are places you won't like, and there are places that you will. And it's just.
Wanted to add this in here. Do you know who the largest landowner in the state of Oklahoma is?
T. Boone Pickens.
No, good guess, but no. It's the Drummond family. Do you know anything about the Drummond family?
The Drummond, like the machinery kind of construction kind of stuff? No?
I don't know.
Oh.
All I know is the Drummond family, including Ree Drummond. You know who Ree Drummond is?
That's the
Pioneer woman.
Pioneer woman who went to USC.
She went to USC.
Yeah.
Yes. So what I'm saying is, an SC grad literally owns Oklahoma.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Next question in the chat. Ramon Birdie says, after 6 games, what is the most surprising thing to both of you, and what is the most concerning for the remaining 6 games? Alicia, what say you?
I genuinely think it's that the defense is as good as they are. Just in terms of pure, this isn't us giving them like, well, they're good for what they came in with. Like, no, they're legitimately. Right. We're having conversations.
They're number one in too many stats to do that thing.
Yeah, and there's still a long way to go. They might take a step back. That will be fine, but they are much better than I expected. Yeah. My biggest concern remains the offensive line. We knew that the depth was going to be a concern. We hoped that injuries would be kind, and they've not been, and they could still get worse. We don't know. So that is definitely my concern. Is I think with an offensive line that could withstand an injury or two, Caleb Williams in this offense would roll every week. But because of the way that things have worked out at left tackle, the way they've had to shuffle, the injury to Justin Dedich, so guys are now playing injured too, or not at 100%. Like, that's really a strain on this offense, and it's something to overcome.
Yeah, I would say my biggest concern, or most surprising thing and biggest concern, are the same thing. It's the offensive line. I would have thought going into it, we talked about it last year, the offensive line was the best unit on this offense. And you bring back Andrew Voorhees, and yes, you lose your left tackle and have to figure out what if you're going to go with Cortland Ford or the transfer Bobby Haskins. But being able to go out and get a veteran transfer like Bobby Haskins feels like it would be a great move, and it still could be. It's still early, 6 games, but like, I didn't expect them to be the sieve that they have been, especially in pass protection. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is based on injury. So like, I do give them sort of the benefit of the doubt to work that out. But man, it needs to be better, because I think that is the ultimate hindrance of why this team hasn't allowed itself to be explosive on offense, because the offensive line is not there. And I don't know if this is a, Coach Hansen thing. If it's just the injuries, I don't know, but it needs to get better for sure.
Yeah.
Next question comes from Dave in Orange County. Do we know what we contribute the massive uptick in our special teams performance from Saturday? It could have been a fluke for all we know. I don't know.
I mean, maybe they heard us and realized that they needed to practice more. I genuinely do not know. I will say that the punter, Aiden Sleep-Dalton, even though he had a sort of rough couple of weeks, he really has come on. He's doing a really good job, and I think that I expected more of that from him in terms of just pure ability. So good on him. The rest of it, just guys being where they're supposed to be. I think it makes a difference.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to see more of it on a consistent basis. We know that Utah is basically special teams U in the Pac-12. This is going to be the big test. Thankfully for USC's sake, Britton Covey is
no longer.
His 39 years as a Ute are over. He is no longer playing football, so in college. So you don't have to worry about him. But there will be other things to worry about there, for sure. Tim says, did you say the replay angles that they showed on TV weren't great? In the stadium, they were good. That not safety replay showed the definitive knee down angle. I mean, we still booed, but we saw it.
This is my thing about crowd reactions. And I, at home, will fully acknowledge when something is not a penalty or whatever. But when you are in the stadium, You should boo every single potential, like, this is why I was mad that they didn't show us the potential PI that they said they would, because the crowd booed, but like I'm sitting there thinking like, yeah, I'd be booing even if I thought it was pass interference. Like that's what you're supposed to do when you're in the crowd. So yeah, the angles on TV sometimes show you more than you see at the game. But even if the crowd is reacting, like you can't trust that it's because they didn't see the right angle. It's usually just because like they're doing their job.
Yeah, and it's a mixture of both. I mean, sometimes, yeah, you don't get the right angle because you don't have access to things. Sometimes the TV broadcast doesn't have access to things. And like I've said, like I find it frustrating that the TV cameras are limited on TV. Like,
why don't we have
I want more
pylon
22 angles.
Yes.
Yeah, I want the pylon cam. I want the first down marker why is it the Rich Sunday League gets all this stuff? But
that's what I'm saying.
Come on.
You just think about like the $1 billion deals, broadcasting deals that are in college football, and that we don't get.
Some podunk tennis tournament that nobody watches gets all this stuff that we can't get anything. Come on, you're killing.
Yeah, I mean, last year ESPN was broadcasting in like not HD cameras for some reason. I don't even know. It's just dumb.
Why can you go to Gable House in Torrance and get like analytics on your bowling? But you can't get you can't know how many inches it is until the first down.
Well, I mean, I feel like every week we talk about whether or not there should be a microchip in the ball in every sport. Soccer asks this as well. Like, why don't we have this technology yet? It's 2022. Let's go.
When I was a kid, there was and I'm sure you can still buy it. There's this ball that was like the speedometer ball. Or whatever.
Where it has it's not a speedometer. It's the tracker. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and you would throw it, and I'd be like, I'm gonna throw this as fast as Kerry would.
It's like 30 miles per hour.
Yeah, this is why I should quit. Yeah. Let's go to a question from Josh. How is no one talking about all the home games that UCLA has this year? They have it easy. So part of it is because that cream puff of a non-conference schedule is all their own doing.
Yes.
That is them. They had 3. Was it Bowling Green,
South Alabama,
and Alabama State? That was all their own doing. And so, anytime you can stack 3 home games, you're going to make your schedule really, really front loaded at home in that sense. But then the other thing is, they sort of just got lucky with how the chips fall. It goes back and forth. It's a give and take in the Pac-12, where sometimes you have 5 home games and 4 road games, and vice versa.
Hey, and they still got to go to Autzen after their bye week this week. So
yeah,
they'll have the road test. It's coming.
Yeah, to SC's credit, like SC doesn't get to play Washington and Oregon. So like while they don't necessarily get a bunch of really tough home games, that would be nice to have at home. At least you don't get those teams on the schedule, period. So not quite the same thing, but sort of. Mm-hmm. Kenny says on the bye week, could we do a Rotbot meetup? That'd be cool. I don't know the logistics of it. The time is tough because Alicia over here, like a full-time journalist and stuff.
How late are the Rotbots willing to meet up?
Journalist is a little smuggy of a term to use, I think.
Whatever. I just go with writer or sports writer, whatever. How late are the Rotbots willing to stay up to meet? Because
you say this as someone who passes out at like 11 o'clock.
Yes, but if I needed to, I can stay up late because so long as I got to not wake up early in the morning. But yeah, I mean, I finish work at 9. That's just the reality. If people want to meet up after 9 o'clock on a Friday or a Saturday or Thursday, like, yeah, we can do that. But like, I can't meet before 9 o'clock on any day of the week except for, my off days, which are not the weekends.
It's a little difficult, but yeah. I will say, I don't want to tease anything too much, but in that realm, if you're looking for those kind of things, something's coming. So sort of wait for those kind of things. Mm-hmm. Glenn says, Michael going deep in the South Bay right now. Of course I'm going deep in the South Bay. You gotta rep the South Bay. Absolutely. Glenn also says, "Hey, Michael, what's the difference between a Dodger dog and an Angel dog? You can get a Dodger dog in October."
Oh,
This is true. This is true. Also, why would here's the thing about Dodger
you
dogs.
say that to give him a dig, but he's not the Angels fan. I am. He just wore the damn hat. Like,
so here's the thing.
Killing me.
First of all, an Angel dog is better than a Dodger dog.
Is it?
Yes, but here's you want to know the secret? All those hot dogs suck. Like, they're all bad. The Dodger dog especially, I think, is such a disappointment. I feel bad for the people in like Podunk, Missouri that watch games on Saturday afternoons on Fox and they hear about Dodger dogs and they come out here for the first time ever and they're like, they go to they do all the annoying tourist traps that none of us do, right? Like they go to the Walk of Fame. God, can you imagine walking to the Walk of Fame? Freaking kill me. They go to the Walk of Fame, they do all that stuff, right? And then they go to Dodger Stadium for a Dodger dog. And the disappointment they must feel that here's this Dodger dog that has the thickness of a Ticonderoga number 2 pencil.
I mean, you're not lying.
Like, but
it's nostalgia.
Cool. It's like a foot long. Cool. That's because they've run it so thin that it's not a bigger wiener. It's just like they just rolled that puppy out longer. Like, no, it doesn't need to be longer than the freaking bun. If you just made it bun sized, it would actually have some, okay girth to it instead of being a freaking worm. It's a waste of time. It's an absolute waste of time.
Speaking of waste of time, Big T in the chat says, never stand in line for hours at Pink's hot dog. Not worth it.
Oh, Pink's?
Like 100%. Never.
Went to Pink's once.
I went to Pink's with my cousins from Ohio, by the way. No.
You want the definitive LA hot dog? Well, no. The real answer is the Danger Dog, but I'm never gonna make that decision because I don't want bacon on my hot dog. But I acknowledge that the Danger Dogs are the definitive LA hot dog for sure. No, you want a great hot dog? Go to Costco. Like, let's not overthink this.
100%.
Just go to Costco.
Go to Costco. Get your Costco hot dog. Get a slice of pizza, and you will have a much better experience than most of the touristy traps out there.
Yeah. Tim in the chat says, go to Bloodso's down the bar. Bloodso's barbecue.
Bloodso's.
Yes.
Do they have a hot dog? Well, I mean, we just went and got the brisket.
They have a hot dog? They have sausage.
Yeah, I don't think we got brisket, and that brisket was
great.
Excellent.
Brisket. It's I'm not going to say that it's in the same. It's not the same as like going down to what's the Lockhart's outside of Austin. It's not maybe that category, and it's not.
It's for what you can get in.
But for
Los
what you can get in
Angeles.
LA, Bloodso's is like
it's outstanding.
A+.
Yes,
A+. Big fan. We're just gonna talk about places all along like Pico and what
was that other street? Yeah.
It's
this is
Melrose, right? Pico and Melrose.
I don't know streets. Navigation is
Kenny
not
says
my
Pink's
deal.
not worth it at all. Glenn says Costco rules. Yes, Costco rules absolutely.
So you know what's really dumb?
You get a great an elite hot dog. And a soda.
What's frustrating? Michael and I live down the street from a Costco. We could walk to the Costco in theory, but it doesn't have the outdoor food court, so we never go because it's a pain in the butt to get in.
Again, this is what Glenn just said Hutchins and McKinney. Yes, Hutchins and McKinney is the A+ place.
Hutchins is our place.
Endorsed by Ronald Jones, by the way.
Yes.
And endorsed by the Ray Detroit podcast. Yeah.
Yes.
No, here's the thing. I love Costco. I love the Costco cafe or whatever you want to call it, the food court. Get out of here with the freaking indoor ones. I moved to Arizona and lived there for 4 years. They were all indoor because of the heat.
That makes sense.
I, as a South Bay dude, I need my outdoor Costco, experience where you're sitting out there and you're in the shade and you can just sit there and you watch everyone do the mayhem of the Costco parking lot. Like, that's part of the experience, is to eat your hot dog while like watching people just go to war looking for a parking spot.
Well, so this is the Costco that we live near is the Costco that I grew up near because we live near one of my folks' places. So, like, this is the Costco that I knew growing up. This is the sort of way that it worked. But we would go to Costco to shop and then get like pizza and hot dogs and whatever.
Sure.
You and I don't shop at Costco because
we should go more.
We should shop at Costco, but also we're only two people and it's
that doesn't mean anything.
That's true, but like it's just such a pain to get in the grocery. Like it's easier to do pickup from Ralph's than to sort of do the whole Costco experience, even though it's worth it. Yeah. So we really need to go to Costco more often.
Jenny says, "Have you been to Dino's Chicken?"
I've not.
I not heard of it. I know Dino Nuggets. Sorry,
Dino
for sure. I think they're called Dino Nuggets. Yeah, those are good. But no. Any other questions in here? Glenn says, should we be having your concern for the 3-game stretch of Arizona, Colorado before the UCLA game? Honestly, I think Arizona, it's going to be interesting. If there's a sneaky game which SC could end up in a dogfight or potentially worse, Arizona. And I know that I say this in a bad time when Arizona just got the doors blown off by Oregon, but they have a receiving core that is tremendous. Elite talent over there at receiver. Jaden DeLora, we know, is someone who's just going to sling it around left and right. Like, I could see Arizona just not knowing, not caring that they're in a game and just going for it.
Well, when I look at that stretch, Colorado is essentially a bye week. They might as well be an FCS opponent.
Yes.
Cal is just such a limited team. I don't know. I don't know.
Cal.
I want to like Cal, but they're very, very like they're not as interesting as Oregon State or Washington State. They're just sort of there. Arizona has the only offense in that stretch that could be the one where, like, if the luck runs out on this defense, like, because before the season,
the only team in that stretch who could score 40 points.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And before the season, I was talking about how, like, the thing about Alex Grinch defense is they're going to have a lot of games where they hold somebody to under 20 points, but they're going to also have a couple games where they're going to give up 60 points. Like, that's just the nature of the beast. And we've seen only under, sub 20s, 25 point games. So if there was going to be a game that it was like, well, this is the one where the dam just broke, the only one I can possibly peg there is Arizona. And I wouldn't even go that far. It's just like if there's a worry there. To answer the question, that 3-game stretch is a godsend, I think, because if you lose to Utah, you get to sort of get your bearings and get yourself ready for the end of the season. And if you beat Utah, you get to sort of gear up for the rest of the season without having to expend too much energy going into those last few games, theoretically.
Yeah. We'll talk about Dino Nuggets more.
Big T in the chat says this is the best football podcast ever, and he says this after we've gone on a rant about Costco hot dogs, Dodger dogs, Dino Nuggets, and Pink's hot dogs and barbecue.
So where are you at on Dino Nuggets?
I like them, but they're not as good as just Tyson regular nuggets. I have a theory.
Do you not like the shape? Is it the shape and how you dip the shape?
I have a theory that the shape limits the ceiling on the nuggets because they're sort of thinner. They become almost, in certain spots, like the tail and the head, it's almost like chicken fries, which I like chicken fries from like Burger King, but it's not the same nugget experience as just like a normal nugget.
I tend to think that Dino Nuggets are almost thicker.
You think? No, I think of them as thin.
I find the Dino Nuggets interesting because they get so many, edges. That
they do have nice edges for. It's kind of like what I like about
dip a little bit different.
Carl's Jr. Stars. My favorite thing is like
chicken stars. I find annoying.
You get to like do your whole process, and so I have a process.
Do you go arm by arm?
I go arm by arm. Yes.
Let me guess. You're the person who puts bugles on your fingers too?
Hell yes.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Glenn says, can you do an F1 podcast? We would, but the FIA is disallowed it. They fined us for even thinking about
it. Glenn, we have a name picked out for our F1 podcast. Well, if we ever do an F1 podcast, like we have a name.
It's not just me, just us. I've picked out a name, and whoever is in that, because we have coworkers here at Fansided who like, we should do an F1 podcast. We should do it. And I'm willing to use that name with them too. I don't know. I have a good name. It's too good of a name not to use.
Yes. Like, it's the kind of thing where it was almost like there are some
Google this and make sure
it's not actually that someone already hasn't taken it, but like there are some things that when you come up with the name is too good to not do something with it, and that's how I feel about this podcast name.
Your search redacted for obvious reasons, did not match any documents. Yes.
There we go.
No one's using it, baby.
Yeah, we got to do it, and I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we got to do it. Maybe when we create our like media empire with our YouTube shows, then that's one of the shows. Well, we can have our USC podcast, we can have our F1 podcast, we can have a TV podcast. We could do a podcast about like reality TV at this point, because now we're watching The Mole on Netflix. It's very good. We watch Big Brother, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah,
how are there still 46 people watching us?
Michael, we attract an audience, and this audience.
Cemetery Baby says, I have a process for this. With dino nuggets are thin. I prefer what they call boneless wings. Those are just tasty, big ass nuggets. And question: barbecue sauce or ranch for dipping? Okay, here's the thing about the sauce. I'm going to tell you right now. Are you ready for this?
Prepare.
You guys,
what's coming.
There's 46 of you listening live on YouTube,
and they all know
this is a special night. It's a big night in America. It's hockey night, so obviously not that many people on compared to a car cast. Only 46 of you. It's intimate right now, so I'm going to share some details. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts right now, I need you to pull up Twitter and tell me that you received this awesome exclusive food take, and tweet to me that you got my exclusive food take. Are you ready for this? Here's the best sauce for nuggets or tenders. All right. Marinara.
Okay, well, at least you picked something.
Marinara.
Because what you're basically creating is like a chicken parm.
Yes. Marinara, baby. Marinara.
I don't hate it.
Thank me later. Here's what you do. When you get pizza at your Domino's, your whatever, you get pizza on Tuesday night with the family, Friday night with the family, blah blah. Make sure you go on the app and you like add like a marinara sauce on the side. Save that bad boy. Save it for when you have nuggets on like Saturday night after everyone goes to sleep and you're like, I still want something. Heat up some nuggets, some dino nuggets. Ooh, I remember that marinara sauce. There you go.
My hot take with regard to nugget dipping sauces is that most of them are very good, and it really, like, my favorite nugget dipping situation is when I have a lot of different things to dip in and I exclude nothing. So Michael goes with marinara. I would include ranch, barbecue, ketchup, fry sauce, queso, nacho cheese.
Can I talk about fry sauce?
Yes.
Okay, so when remember I missed
Mayo.
The rice game because I was on assignment. That assignment was driving from Dallas to Seattle with my best friend, helping him move. On the way, we drove through Idaho, and everywhere we went, we tried to get like what the place was famous for. So in Idaho, we looked up that they're called finger steaks or steak fingers are the thing that Idaho is famous for. So it's what it sounds like. It's like chicken fried steaks, but they're like tendies. Like they're like chickens. They're steak strips that are deep fried and beer battered and whatnot. They serve them with fry sauce. I was nervous because some places put mustard in the fry sauce, and that absolutely taints the freaking fry sauce. This fry sauce was absolutely mega bussin' because it was just, mayo and ketchup as God intended. But if you taint it with mustard, you absolutely lose me.
It depends on how much mustard you put. For me, yeah, it depends.
All right. We've gone long.
Scott in the chat says, question to see if we can be friends.
Here we go.
But he hasn't dropped the question yet.
This is what is he going to ask?
This is what I'm not going to let us end the show until we see the question. And the question might have already dropped. It's just maybe there's a delay on our chat, but I'm waiting. Oh no, Mayo is so good. Cemetery Baby.
Mayo is the number one.
Mayo is our household dip. Like that is our thing. Oh, okay. Question to see if we can be friends. Driver and team of choice. Oh no, Scott. This might be bad because people have opinions. Oh no. Okay.
Yeah,
Michael.
Mustard's trash. Cemetery. Sorry. No. The answer to this, of course, is Team Red Bull, baby. Max all day. Yeah.
I am Team Red Bull as well. I am Team Carlos Sainz.
He doesn't race for Red Bull though.
Not but anymore. Team Red Bull
used to.
He races for Ferrari, but Ferrari is embarrassing. But I still love Carlos Sainz.
Carlos Sainz. Yeah.
Carlos, my baby, my baby. F1. The thing I like about it though is that I like a lot of the drivers and a lot of the teams, and I'm here for the drama more than anything. So what annoys me is when people are so in their team and their driver that that forms all of their opinions about what happened on a weekend. 100%. To me, I'm just but guys, the weekend was so wild and crazy. It doesn't have to be just the very infinitesimal thing about this particular thing. Can we just appreciate the crap that happened with this, that, or the other division or random thing. So yeah,
there's races where Max doesn't win, but I'm that was a great race because this happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. My Red Bull and Max fandom is less so, live and die.
Yeah.
It's more so that, I like Max, but it doesn't mean I can't appreciate Lewis. Lewis does some crazy things.
Lewis is amazing. I mean, genuinely. And that's one of the things that annoys me too, is Lewis is amazing. Max is aming. I don't think that
everyone outside of Esteban Ocon can get my support. So, yeah. All right. Let's wrap this thing up. It's been long. There's 43 of you that need to go watch the Kings game. So, go do that. Go Kings. Hockey back in session. We'll be back in session tomorrow, of course, 5 p.m. the normal time to preview USC and Utah, the Utes, the big game, the big one, the one we circled all off season long. We'll talk about that, give you our predictions, and so much more. Alicia, you got any final word? Which I'm assuming you're just going to tell people to subscribe and all that stuff.
The final word is subscribe, as in click the like button, click the subscribe button, and all of that kind of stuff. But also the final word is mustard, because there is a debate in the chat about mustard. Weighing in, mustard is only good in very, very small doses.
Mustard is bad.
Otherwise, no, Josh, I will not chug a thing of mustard ever. I'm preemptively jumping in there. Nope.
All right. We will see you guys later. Till then, see ya.
See ya.